I'm Joe from Zero Tolerance Gluten Free Homebrew Club. We're in Groundbreaker Brewing. We just had the first anniversary party for Zero Tolerance Gluten Free Homebrew Club. We had more gluten-free beer here than has probably ever been in one place at one time. We had 11 different dedicated gluten-free breweries donate beer. They each sent 4 to 6 to 8 different beers to the party, and we drank so many of them.
What were you most excited to get sampled today?
I was excited about Evasion. Ben brought this millet wine that I know is outstanding, and I'm drinking it right now. This beer started off, it's 100% pale millet, and he boiled it down from a 15 barrel batch to a 7 barrel batch, and then aged it in millet whiskey barrels, and it's just phenomenal. And I was looking forward to drinking that. I had never had Oryx before, and I was excited about trying their beer because I'm from Pittsburgh and I'm gluten-free. So I was excited to try their beers, and they're all fantastic. And they did a huge solid to our club by sending us a bunch of equipment to add to our lending library. So now we have fermenters and a mash tun that are all dedicated gluten-free that we can lend out to our club members to use on brew days.
They just check it out?
Yeah, if you're in the club and you come to meetings and you ask, hey, I'd like to brew a 3.5 gallon batch of beer, we'll send you home with a stainless steel brew bucket, and you can get started brewing your gluten-free beer in that, and then just bring it back when you're done.
And I take it that this is exclusively dedicated gluten-free brewing. So
yes, no.
You're not into people brewing and then using enzymes on this equipment?
No,
anything.
The name of the club is Zero Tolerance, and that's for a reason. Paxton here at Groundbreaker said it to me today. He's like, how did we end up with a spectrum of gluten-free? If it's gluten-free, that means to our club, there are no gluten-containing ingredients in the beer whatsoever. And that includes yeast. Even yeast that was grown on gluten-containing media, we don't accept those beers into our club. If you want to sit with us at the cool kid table, it's got to be gluten-free from start to finish. We use millet, we use buckwheat, we use rice, no barley, no wheat, no rye, and no yeast grown on any of those things. So we primarily use dry yeast, and that's grown on molasses, and that's A-OK with us. So Safel, Alamand, those guys can play.
It's geared more towards beginner homebrewers, is that correct? Or would you say it varies?
No, it varies. We have some very well-established, very highly technical type of guys. Like, we did a meeting once on home malting that was very in-depth and got really down into molecular science type of conversations. And that's not as accessible, but it's super worthwhile information. You've got a guy from Hungary talking about malting buckwheat and a guy from California talking about malting millet, and they're getting, really down to the science of how you can malt these grains at home. And we did the same thing with mashing techniques that got pretty advanced. And at that point, we decided maybe to take a step back, and we redid Gluten Free 101. Like, we don't want to exclude people who are like new to this, because all of us start somewhere.
So right now we're at a lovely party that you threw for your first anniversary celebration of the founding of your club. What does a typical brew meeting look like?
Normally we have anywhere between like 5 and 7 members show up, and we host the meetings on Zoom, which is a web conferencing service. So anybody in the world can participate. We have people from Australia, Hungary, Canada, and across the United States join our conferences. Each meeting generally has a topic, and I will give a presentation. In the coming year, I'm looking forward to other people giving presentations as well. But we'll talk about something like brewing your first gluten-free beer, or how to use enzymes in your mash, or brewing with sorghum. We'll talk about, generally we try to keep it as specific gluten-free topics. I hope this coming year to do one on mead, where I'll have somebody come in from Necker Creek and talk about making mead, because it's a gluten-free drink that we can all make at home. And we'll just talk about a specific topic. I always bring homebrew. I encourage our club members to bring homebrew as long as it's brewed on dedicated equipment using only gluten-free ingredients. It's welcome here in Groundbreaker. They're very strict about the rules. They have a certification to uphold, and we honor that. So if you're bringing beer, it's not gluten reduced, it's only gluten free. And then we love to share, and we'll drink beers, we'll talk about brewing, and everybody gets to make a contribution to the club in that way. And the Zoom conference is two ways. So people out in the field, people from Eugene, wherever, will dial in and they can speak with us and we can speak with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of participation rates do you get from people not here in person?
It depends, like 5-10 people typically on a given day. This is a bigger day because there's free beer here, so people are showing up. Free beer draws a crowd. But
really?
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. It gets people to drive from Bend. I mean, they'll do anything for free beer. This meeting, we had people come all the way up from Southern California, Northern California, from Canada, and various places in between, Washington, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, or Central Oregon. And it's been great, and I look forward to doing this in coming years because I think it's a good way to bring people together.
I would agree with that. You've done a great job.
Thanks.
So should I look forward to a second anniversary party?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if we'll do it this big. I know that I was thinking more like 1, 5, 10. We can do something huge like this, but the response was really positive, and a big, huge part of that goes to the breweries that did donate. Mm-hmm. We had RX, we had Beerly, we had Burning Bros, we had Alt Brew, All Send Beer. I'm forgetting somebody in there. There was a Ghostfish sent beer down.
Holiday.
Holiday sent beer. I didn't count how many different beers that we had on, and we should probably go back through and audit that because it was dozens. I mean, you're never going to find as much gluten-free beer as we had at this meeting.
I would say that's accurate.
Yeah. This is one of those clubs where there literally is not a stupid question to ask, because all of us are coming from some place where this is new to all of us. Gluten-free brewing is new to everyone. Nobody's figured all of it out yet. You look at the entire history of brewing that goes back hundreds of years, those recipes are very well established. Gluten-free brewing goes back 15 years. So we're really, that when you talk about the bleeding edge of something, this is new. This is all new territory. And the stuff that we have to deal with, oh, did my mash go poorly? Did I not get conversion? If you're a barley brewer having these problems, it's straight up incompetence. But for us, this happens on a batch by batch basis. These things that we brew with, they don't really want to be beer. It's easy to make beer with barley. It wants to be beer. This stuff, millet, buckwheat, rice, it's not inclined to become beer, so we have to help it along. And there's very complicated mash regimes that we have to do, and there's no set way to do it. There are very set, prescribed ways to make beer from barley. It's completely foolproof. But for us, we're figuring things out, and it's a lot more challenging. I listen to barley brewers complain about things in their field, and it's like, you guys don't realize how easy you have it. Take your entire grain bill and remove all of your fermentables and replace them with something else, and then tell me how you're having a bad brew day. It turns your world upside down when you have to start going with gluten-free fermentables. It's completely different.